All right, today we're going to get right into the math of regularization. It's one of those absolutely critical techniques you need to know for building machine learning models that actually work. We're talking about models that are stable, reliable, and don't fall apart when they see messy, real-world data.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll tackle the problem of instability itself. Then, we'll look at the big three solutions, L2 or ridge, L1, the lasso, and the hybrid elastic net. And finally, we'll compare them so you know exactly what's going on under the hood. Okay, first things first. Why do we even need regularization in the first place? Well, it all comes down to two sides of the same coin. On one hand, you've got this mathematical idea of ill-posed problems, and on the other, its statistical twin, which you've probably heard of, overfitting. You know, at its core, a lot of what we do in machine learning is what's called an inverse problem. Think about it. We have some data that we've observed. Let's call it F with a little delta to show it's noisy. And our whole goal is to figure out the original clean signal, U, that produced it. The big problem, of course, is that the data we actually have is contaminated with noise, that little epsilon.
And this picture just says it all, doesn't it? On the left, that's the clean signal we're hoping to find. But on the right, that's what we actually get. After the real-world process and all that noise gets added in, the original pattern is practically buried. Trying to recover the left from the right is, to put it mildly, a huge challenge.
Now, there's a formal way to talk about this, and it's called Hadamard's criteria for a well-posed problem. Basically, for a problem to be easy, a solution has to exist, it has to be the only solution, and, this is the big one, it has to be stable. And stability is where almost all interesting problems fall apart. It means that if your input data changes just a tiny bit, your whole solution can go flying off the rails. And a model like that, it's totally useless in practice.
So this mathematical instability we've been talking about, it has a name you're definitely familiar with in statistics, the bias-variance trade-off. See, when you let a model get too complex, it doesn't just learn the signal, it starts memorizing the noise. That gives you high variance. Your model looks great on the data it trained on, but the moment it sees something new, its total error goes through the roof. And this is exactly where regularization comes in. It's how we get a handle on this trade-off.
Okay, so how do we actually fix this instability? Let's start with our first major tool, L2 regularization, which you'll almost always hear called ridge regression. The whole idea is to tackle the problem directly by changing the very thing our model is trying to optimize.
So normally, we just try to minimize the residual sum of squares, the RSS. Simple enough. But with ridge, we add a new term to that equation. It's a penalty, and it's controlled by this hyperparameter, lambda, that we get to choose. We take lambda and multiply it by the sum of the squared values of all our model's coefficients. So what does this do? It directly punishes the model for having large coefficients.
But the really cool part is the geometric picture here. What we're doing, mathematically, is the same as saying minimize the original error, but your solution, that vector of all your coefficients, is not allowed to leave this sphere. The size of that sphere is controlled by lambda. This constraint literally stops any one coefficient from getting huge just to chase some noise in the data. It forces the model to be more stable.
All right, next up we have L1 regularization, better known as the lasso. Now, lasso also gives us that stability we want, but it comes with this amazing, almost magical side effect. It can do automatic feature selection for us.
And if you look at the formula, the change seems so small. Instead of squaring the coefficients, we're just taking their absolute values. That's the L1 norm. It feels like a minor detail, right? But swapping out that power of 2 for an absolute value completely changes the game. It has this massive impact on the kind of solution you get.
And here's the key takeaway. The L1 penalty doesn't just shrink coefficients. It can force some of them to become exactly 0. Think about what that means. If you have a data set with thousands of features, Lasso can literally tell you, hey, these 900 features, they're useless. Ignore them. It performs feature selection for you, giving you what we call a sparse model, one that's much simpler and easier to understand.
So that leads to the obvious question, right? Both L1 and L2 push coefficients towards 0. Why is it that only L1 can actually push them all the way to 0? The answer, once again, isn't really in the algebra, it's in the geometry. Okay, so remember how the L2 constraint was a smooth sphere? Well, the L1 constraint is different. In 2 dimensions, it's a diamond. In higher dimensions, it's a hyperdiamond. And the key thing about a diamond is that it has sharp corners. Now, imagine the contours of your air function expanding outwards, like ripples in a pond. They're much more likely to hit one of those sharp corners first. And what's special about the corners?
They're points where one of the coefficients is exactly 0. That's where sparsity comes from. So that brings us to a really clever idea, the elastic net. What if you don't want to choose between the stability of ridge and the sparsity of lasso? What if you could get the best of both? That's exactly what elastic net was designed to do.
The objective function here is just a really nice blend of the two we've already seen. You can see it has both the L2 penalty term and the L1 penalty term. And it has this new parameter alpha that acts like a mixing knob. If you turn alpha all the way to 0, you've got pure ridge. Turn it all the way to 1, and you've got pure lasso. Anything in between is a mix.
So when is this actually useful? Well, the classic example is when you have a bunch of features that are highly correlated with each other. Lasso has a weird quirk here. It tends to just pick one of them at random and set the others to 0, which isn't always what you want. The elastic net, because it has that bit of ridge in it, is smarter. It tends to group them together. Either they all get shrunk or they all get kicked out. It's just a much more stable and robust behavior. All right, let's put this all together and do a direct comparison. We'll look at the geometry one more time and lay out a practical guide for choosing the right regularizer for your problem. And here it is, the core geometric difference, side by side. You've got the L1 diamond on the left with those sharp corners that give you sparsity. And then you've got the L2 circle on the right with its smooth edge that shrinks everything down nicely and proportionally, but doesn't have those special points that force coefficients to 0. This table is basically the perfect summary. Look at ridge. Handles correlated features? Yes. Gives you sparsity? No. Then lasso. Sparsity? Yes, but it can get a bit wonky with correlated features. And finally, elastic net. Gives you sparsity and handles correlated features well. It really is a powerful combination. Of course, none of this works unless we pick a good value for lambda. And the way we do that is with k-fold cross-validation. It sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. You chop your data up into, say, 10 pieces or folds. You train your model on 9 of them and test it on the one you left out. Then you do that again with a different piece left out. You repeat this for a bunch of different lambda values, and at the end, you just pick the lambda that gave you the best average score across all the folds. It's the standard, robust way to get this done.
So let's wrap this up. The most important thing to take away is that regularization isn't just some random hack. It's a deeply principled mathematical solution to a fundamental problem. What we're doing is intentionally adding a little bit of bias to our model, and in exchange, we get a huge reduction in variance. And that trade-off is what gives us models that actually work in the real world.
And that leaves us with a really interesting question to think about. Everything we've talked about today is explicit regularization, penalties we deliberately add. But then you look at these massive deep learning models, and they often generalize surprisingly well even without them. So what's going on? It turns out there's something called implicit regularization, where the training process itself, the optimizer you use, the fact you stop training early, is secretly doing the job of regularizing. Figuring that out is one of the biggest open questions in machine learning theory right now.